Welcome to Switch Theory. My name is Chris Amundsen. I am your co-host along with my better half, Larro Golden. Larro, it's been 2 weeks. There was a small laptop mishap with one of your children, but you are now armed and equipped with a new laptop and ready to do the podcast again. What's been going on, man? How you been?
Well, I mean, I was good before I had an unexpected $400 expenditure, and then so I mean, I'm doing a lot better. I got all my clips I had clipped. I'm good, man. I'm happy about that. Yeah, I mean, I'm good overall, man. I can't complain right now. How about you?
I'm doing well. I'm still really it's kind of surreal that we were able to get Casey Johnson on the podcast last time we were on and see his insights and his candidness and his professionalism. Big fan of Casey, and it was nice to have him on the pod. And I think we should try and get some more guests the rest of the season. It's just nice to get a different dynamic. I know I love talking ball with you, and sometimes it's nice to bring a third person in to bounce ideas off of and kind of get their feel. But tonight, it's back to just the duo here, and we just got done watching the Bulls in a thrilling game against the Suns, in which they lost this wild KD double clutch game winner over Caruso and Pat, and saw some things. So I didn't get to watch most of this game because it starts while I'm still at work. But I wanted to hear your thoughts on the Suns game, what you thought the Bulls did well, what you thought, cost them that 23-point lead.
Yeah, I mean, the Bulls game was really fun, in my opinion. I know that they ended up losing that game, towards the end. But, at the beginning of the game, I mean, I think you saw the Bulls get back to what they did well. During that time, Zach LaVine was out, which was, moving the ball, playing with good pace, playing through Vooch. Vooch making really good decisions out of the elbow, post touches, hitting cutters, screen, two-man game out the, getting to his empty side, 15-foot pull-up. Coby White. I mean, Coby White put on a full display of his skill tonight. I mean, his improvement, I should say, the changing of speeds, the ability to get to the paint off the handle. There was two instances where he, had the ball and he hit KD with a hesitation and got to the paint and finished. And then there was one where there was a Vooch was coming over to set up him a ball screen. And so Nurkic was kind of setting up for deep drop, and Coby rejects it, and he hits a hesitation, and it not only got Kevin Durant, but it got Nurkic, which opened up a lane for him to go finish a layup, in which he did. So, I mean, tonight I thought I'm not going to get too much into Coby. We're going to touch on that because I feel like he just deserves a little bit more. But I think overall, I mean, first half, they played really good game of, team ball, getting up the floor, pushing the pace. Him and Io and Coby doing a good job of pushing the pace, getting into the half court with, sometimes 20 seconds, where they're able to move the ball, touch the paint, kick out, keep the defense in rotation, to the point where a lot of times they would end up with wide open three balls. And I think they were 9 for 20 from three at halftime. So, I mean, that to me, getting through 23s in the first half is like, I mean, that's you can live with that, and I thought in the second half, they kind of got away from that pushing the pace. And I think what happened is not only did they get away from that offensively, but defensively, they took a hit a little bit because Caruso ended up getting into foul trouble. And believe Pat had played the whole third quarter. And he had to guard Kevin Durant. I know that wore him down. And once KD would get by him, there wasn't really much help. I mean, when Caruso and Pat were on the floor together, you could expect, those two to help each other in certain situations. And it was just tough. I mean, obviously there were some possessions where you would like Pat to be able to move his feet a little bit better. and keep them in front. But I think sometimes it's easy to forget that Kevin Durant is one of the best scorers we'll ever see touch a basketball. And some will even say he is the best. So, I mean, it depends on where you're at on that spectrum. But yeah, I think they lost it in a combination of the offense kind of slowing down and getting more kind of stagnant at times, get into that kind of, isolation ball, but not as bad as it usually does. I thought there were flashes in the second half of them continuing to play, that move the ball around, but it wasn't as good as it was in the first half. And I do think that had a lot to do with, Caruso being in foul trouble, because not only does he defend really well, but also Caruso pushes the pace. Caruso also is really good at, as I love what you always say, is advantage maintenance. He always maintains the advantage and is able to keep the ball popping. And I think you lose a lot of juice when he's off the floor and for a whole quarter. So I do think that's when the game changed. And next thing you know, Super Saiyan Durant came out of nowhere. And he just, at one point, he was 10 for 24 from the field. And then, my God, I mean, he just went to another level. He just became that type of tough shot maker that we know he is. There were a lot of shots that I don't even think Wemby would have been able to contest. I mean, he was just that locked in. So, and at the end, I just do, I think that this loss is something obviously I'm never satisfied with a loss as a fan of the Bulls, but as an analyst of the Bulls, I can understand what happened. Losing Caruso is tough when you're playing against three, star offensive basketball players. And when you lose a guy like that, it's tough to recover. And you combine that with what Kevin Durant was able to do towards the end of that third quarter and all of that fourth quarter. It's tough to overcome, man. It really is. So, I mean, that's just how I saw the game as a whole. You'd like to see them kind of rebound after this, though, and kind of say, hey, that was a tough loss, but let's go ahead and take care of business in the next game.
Yeah, talking about Kevin Durant shooting, he was 4 of 16 with 15 points, I think, partway through the third or most of the way through the third quarter, which means he went 10 of 16 the rest of the way and finished with 43 points. So there's some things you just can't deal with. And when KD gets on one like that, there's, as you said, like not even Victor Wembanyama could probably guard these shots that he's making. And, Caruso and Pat try and give him the business as much as they can. But, it's, as you said, one of the greatest, if not the greatest all-around scorer of all time. And that's tough to overcome. And yeah, I mean, the Bulls had a chance. They put themselves in position to win. They're up 23 points. If you look at their win probability graph on the ESPN app, it's like sitting at like 99% for like 2/3 of the game. And then towards the end of the third quarter, it just starts to plummet. And then it goes back and forth at the end of the fourth quarter. So yeah, the Bulls played a thrilling game, but sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I just wanted to bring up, some people are probably like, wondering, how did KD get to that spot? And how did the Bulls allow KD to get a shot off? You knew the ball was getting into his hands. But I just want, like, sometimes you get got, as a coach, like, Billy did a great job of kind of adjusting. And when Kevin got hot, he started to bring hard help, and force the ball out of KD's hands, and they would just rotate from there. And what I saw in that last play is Vogel kind of manipulated that. And what it was a sideline out of bounds play. And they had Kevin Durant come off almost like a down screen. We'll just call it a pin down. He came off a pin down. And the ball in Nurkic actually set the pin down screen. I'm sorry. After Nurkic set the pin down, he pops out to the ball. Okay, gets the ball, and the inbounder, who I believe was Grayson Allen, if I remember right, it was Grayson Allen. That player doesn't really matter, but we'll just say it's Grayson Allen. Comes to set almost like think about like Golden State when they run their split action, where they get the ball to the low post, high post, and the passer to the low post comes a set almost like a away screen, and so the guy coming off the screen is coming towards the ball, right? And that's you've seen it time and time again of what Steph Curry will come off, or Clay will come off, or even Jordan Poole when he was a Warriors will come off and get a three. And that's what they were setting up for. So as you can see, if you go back to that clip, you can see Caruso, he read it really, really well, right? He's got the top foot over the screener's top foot. He's ready to slide over. KD, I think this is the other thing about Kevin Durant, or some of the greatest scorers, is not only do, guys like him, when they have the ball in their hands, they make great decisions, but guys like him, in order to be able to get shots off at a clip that these guys do, you also have to be really good at reading defenders. You also have to be able to understand what a defense is trying to do to you so you can counter. And I thought what he did is he saw Caruso stepping over. So instead of coming off that screen, he just cut away. And what really took away the help was Devin Booker. As that was happening, he cut across the lane, which took Pat away from help. And I thought that was really good stuff by the Suns that took advantage of their the Bulls' two best defenders, and kind of manipulating them to the point where they can't be in a set defense to be able to help. And what happened was it was a great pass from Nurkic, and KD got to a spot. And even with that great read from Kevin Durant, Caruso still was there. He almost had a block shot, and even Pat came off and helped it and had a hand in there. Kevin Durant it's Kevin Durant.
Yeah, it was a brutal play to watch, but as you beautifully described it, they got Caruso to bite on the screen. KD cuts the other way with Kevin Durant. I'm sorry, with Booker. Yeah, as you said, dragging Pat across the key, and that was it. And then even so, as you said, they both were there.
Yeah.
To the point where Kevin had to double clutch and change his shooting form midair, and the net did not move when he scored that. It was crazy.
It's like
it's Chris, just greatness. It's greatness.
Chris, exactly, man.
It's just greatness.
What are you gonna do? That you just call just unreal concentration. The fact that Pat has some of the bigger hands in the league. Caruso's effort is there, and you're just just looking at that orange ring. I don't care about what y'all doing.
Yeah,
come on,
that's
man.
special. It's special, and as long as he's like that, it gives the Suns a chance despite the rest of their kind of roster woes.
Yep.
Speaking of roster woes, since we last were with Casey Johnson, Zach LaVine came back, was playing pretty well. He was playing a different role, I thought, and then ended up getting an ankle sprain, which is more than a grade 1, which is Shams reported today. And he should be out a couple weeks. So back out of the lineup, and just from crazy bad luck it's just the worst possible season you could expect for Zach so far. But, Bulls, as we've seen with him out, have been playing a different type of basketball. And I thought that Zach actually did a really good job after a couple of games of integrating himself into the way that the Bulls were playing rather than kind of taking the reins. If anything, you wanted Zach to take more shots than he was taking. But I thought his playmaking and his defense were both much improved upon his return. And, it's obviously a shame that he's out, but it's given Coby White a chance to continue to improve. And I know you said in the chat tonight and before we started recording, he's him right now. He's just what he's doing in a lot of aspects of the game has just been super impressive. His ball control, his change of speed and direction, his read of the game has improved. His shot making is there. His confidence, his leadership, his defense still gets picked on. He absolutely gets targeted on a nightly basis by opposing coaches, but his effort is unquestionable. He's there all the time. He's getting charges. He's fighting out there, and he's been easily the best story of the season. So I wanted to let you talk about Coby, because I know that you were talking in our chat tonight about some of the things that Coby was doing tonight. You already mentioned the change of direction that he got KD on one of those times. But
Man.
what have you seen from Coby that's been the biggest change this year for you?
So, gosh, man, so tonight, obviously, right? Like you just mentioned that like the change of direction, the change of gears, right? Not only like stop feet, then go, but like, coming up, walking the ball, getting to a jog, then a sprint, then like changing gears. Like I think Coby has mastered his gears. Like he's mastered how to, his stick shift. Like for instance, I remember like this is going to be one of those Larro G's that is just dumb. But like, I remember when I was like, I believe I was a sophomore in high school. And my mom had this Acura. It was a stick shift. And my dad always taught her how to, drive a stick shift. And what my mom used to do is like, I still to this day don't even understand. I just stick to, automatic. But she would leave it in gear. So when she turned the car, it just goes. So one morning, she told me to go start the car. Thought nothing of it. I start the car and it just goes. And I almost like knocked out my neighbor's garage. I'll never forget it, but for some reason, I stayed calm, I stayed cool, and I hit the brake and we were good. But I bring that Larro G up is because like, that was almost like how Coby was, like it was, as soon as he touched the ball, he's go. Like it was just a go, 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 go. If you're in the way, fine, I'll get a charge. If you're not in the way, I'll get a layup. Like so sometimes I may not get a good finesse, good English off the glass because I'm going too fast to be able to adjust, right? But tonight I thought he used something that lets me know that he's just in a different space in terms of when he gets into the paint, his comfortability. It's just gotten to another level. There's a move that Luka has made. He does all the time. It's a decel step where he gets downhill, he gets that big or whoever's guarding him to get their momentum going towards the basket, and he'll take that first step, and then that last step would be like almost like he's stopping. And that next guy will go by, either he flies by, or as you go up, the momentum is pushing that defender into you, so it's a foul, and you get into the free throw line. He did that tonight, and he did it again. And I'm like, I'm getting excited talking about this because I feel like as much as we love Pat and Pat has been consistent in terms of his defensive effort, the offensive stuff, we can get to that later in terms of like where he's basically the things that we want him to be good at, or we think he can be good at, he can still be good at it. I think it's just, it was going to take a little bit more time, in terms of, hopefully the Zach LaVine foot in the door and out the door can kind of figure itself out, because I think that kind of messes with not only his flow, but the team's flow. But anyway, in terms of back to Coby, is I just feel like when we were hoping for something to make the future look a little bit brighter, something, that, and we've talked about it. Me and you have talked about it. We thought that Coby and Pat were those guys. And I think Pat has been consistent in being at least his floor being at least a 3-and-D wing that is valuable. But I think Coby, to me, is starting to hit another threshold for even me of what I thought he could be. And tonight, especially, is all the evidence to me of why I feel like I'm not crazy about thinking this way, is because I thought tonight he showed a little bit of everything. On the ball, get used in pick and roll, getting into the paint, finding teammates, get using pick and roll to get to his spots and pull up and make his tough twos, beating KD off the dribble, beating different, when you get the switch on a big, a lot of times, like for instance, think about Lonzo, right? When Lonzo was healthy, when he get a switch on a big, it's kind of 50-50 he'd be able to beat a big off the dribble. That's just not his game, right? But with Coby, like, he's just continuing to show, okay, cool, you want to show a big on me? That's fine. I'm going to mix them until I get an advantage, and I'm going to get into that paint. Either I get to a bucket, or either I find my teammates before either a drop off to Vooch, or I'm continuing to show that I can get downhill, get 2 feet in the paint, see the rotation, the pre-rotation before it happens to the corner, And instead of hitting the corner, I'm going to hit the wing where that pre-rotation came from. And it's just, I don't know, guys. I just, we're seeing something with Coby, man. And I'm not saying he's a superstar. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying he's a first team NBA guy or all NBA guy. But what I am saying is I think that this Coby has potential to be not only most improved player, but I do think there's a ceiling or he can reach being an all-star player. I think it's there. He's taken this lead guard role to another, like, I just didn't know if it was there. And he took me by the shoulders. It was like, Larro, look, I can do this. I can do this. Look at what I'm doing. I can do this. Don't worry about it. Put the ball in my hand. I can figure some things out. So I don't know. I could probably keep going, but that's just how I feel about it, man. Tonight was just so fun to watch, man, from him especially.
First of all, did you just make up a word called Larrogy, like analogy, but with your name instead?
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Second, no, I believe you with Coby. So I know for a long time people have talked about his ceiling being a six man, and you and I have always been on the side of, well, he's too young to put a ceiling on him. Let's see what he can do. And we've seen each season he has improved something about his game. And at the beginning of the season, I think I was on a podcast. I can't remember if I was guessing or if it was ours, but talking about who would have like the biggest breakout season between Coby and Pat. And I said, I think Coby has improved in a lot of the ways that I wanted him to last season, but hasn't had as much opportunity to showcase it all. And I think this season he'll be able to showcase the improvements that he's made on a more consistent basis. And I think that's been true. He has really taken those consistent improvements that he's gotten and he has put it on display every single game. And, he's had bad shooting games, but Coby's rarely out there and you're not feeling him. Like he's always putting pressure on the defense. He has a pace to him. He has a jitteriness to him. And his playmaking has continued to improve. I've always thought his ability to read the game was good. His assist turnover ratio was always good. I think it was a matter of him not being able to manipulate the defense with his own ball handling and speed control. That was really the thing that was holding his playmaking back. And now we've seen that playmaking come forward because now Coby's in complete control when he has the ball in his hands and he's able to make the reads that he has always been able to see, but hasn't been able to make the pass because of his own position or his own lack of space creation, if you will.
Yeah.
So I've been really impressed with Coby. Defensively, I think he's always going to get targeted. Mm-hmm. So, like many guards in the league, you're going to have to pair him with someone in the backcourt that is can make up for those deficiencies. Luckily, the Bulls have three of those guys in Caruso, Ayo, and if he gets healthy again, Lonzo Ball. So I think you get three guys that can pair really nicely with Coby in the backcourt. And it's just been a nice success story. Looking at cleaning the glass, we talked earlier in the season that Coby and Pat were kind of leading the way in plus minus and kind of lineup effectiveness, and Coby is still leading. He's at a plus 7.9 differential for the season so far. And funny enough, Patrick Williams, Dalen Terry, Alex Caruso, and Ayo Dosunmu are the next four guys on that list. So, we've had some really, really quality guard play this season, and it's nice to see. And we'll see what happens in the future. But, Bulls have some really, really interesting decisions to make at the deadline. But there was another person that you told me you were really, really impressed with tonight, and that is Billy Donovan. And you told me that he was coaching his behind off. I'll use less colorful language, but what are some things that you saw from Billy tonight that kind of give you confidence in him? And to be clear, you and I have always been Billy proponents. We think he's a good coach. Sometimes though, there's been a lack of creativity in the offense, and I think that's something that tonight gave you a little bit more hope in that going forward.
Yeah, well, I mean, to me, I didn't really mean it in terms of like offensively, because I feel like he's still doing the same Billy thing where he allows his play, like he'll call an action, like you'll see him you'll see his hand go like slanted, and that's for an action called angle, where they'll, Vucha comes set the ball screen at the break, from the corner and the wing, and different zipper for DeMar to come up, things like that. Like he'll call actions. And I've gotten over the fact of like, okay, he's just not going to be creative. And the thing is I think now he's getting to a point where, if they're able to play okay, I shouldn't say that way, because we've seen that they can't play this way. I'm trying not to be harsh to Zach, because Zach has already taken a big beating from a lot of fans. But like, he's just I don't think he fits the way they want to play. And I think he doesn't fit it, or he's just not comfortable with it. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to put Zach to the side. But the way they've played in terms of being able to play with Vooch, like tonight, again, I didn't bring it up, but like with Vucevic, his ability to, when he gets that ball in the pocket, right, out of pick and roll, his ability, like obviously he's not he's not like Sabonis, or he's not Jokic in terms of like how quick they make those decisions. But like he makes good decisions. And I think a lot of times, if he's not scoring for himself, he's doing a really good job of reading the defense and making the right passes. And what it's doing is, sometimes you'll look at a Bulls offense and you'll be like, man, they're working really hard to get a good look. But at the same time, they're doing a good job of kind of keeping the defense in rotation until they find a good look, and that's totally fine. That's okay with me. It's not like, you got guards, that can't get by their primary defender and everybody needs help. Like, no, like it's getting better. Like Coby is starting to be able to do his own thing and be able to beat guys off a standstill. It's getting better. And I think, so on the offensive side, I'm not really, I didn't really mean like he was cooking there. I was more so saying like the way he was managing the game, the way he was, like it was almost like, dare I say, like a playoff game, the way he was kind of handling the game. Like it was, as soon as Vogel makes an adjustment, Billy made an adjustment. KD sits down, Pat goes sit down. When he had to make a tough decision, in terms of, okay, Caruso has 4 fouls. What are we going to do? We don't have Torrey Craig. I tried Dalen. It just didn't look all that good. They went on a run when him and Dre were on the floor. Andre Drummond. Pat, you got to stick this one out, man. I'm probably going to need you the whole third quarter. And as a coach, you don't want to do that, right? You don't want to play a player, especially in the NBA, 12 minutes like of gruel. Like it's not like he's guarding like, I don't know, like you pick your play. It's not like he's guarding Ben Simmons or something like that, or even that's a little taxing because the way he plays transition. But like think of your player that can't, a PJ Tucker. It's not like he's guarding PJ Tucker or something like that. He's actually guarding someone that is going to go at you. He's going to go at you and go at you and go at you nonstop. And he had to make a decision. Hey, look, do I keep Caruso on the bench? Or do I, bring him out here and sit down Pat? He's been out there a long time. And I thought he made a good decision. I mean, Caruso is very valuable. And I think if you can weather the storm that, KD, Lord knows KD is like category 5 when he gets going like he did tonight. But I thought, he did a good job of managing that whole situation. And they still had a 7-point lead going into the fourth. So me as a coach, if I'm in Billy's shoes, I'm like, man, we weathered that storm. I got 2 fouls for Caruso in the whole fourth quarter. Pat, you sit down, get some rest. Let's do this thing. We got a 7-point lead. I made the right decision. And then by that time, though, Kevin Durant was starting to feel himself. And that's where I wanted to see what he would do. Would he continue to allow, Pat to guard him one-on-one? Like, Pat is a really good isolation defender, but the thing is like Kevin Durant's just a different breed. And so it's tough to just allow anyone, even Caruso, right? Like, you can't just ask Caruso to guard him one-on-one every single possession. That's tough. And so I was waiting for his adjustment. And what I loved was, is like, man, you know what? We're just going to get the ball out of KD's hands. If he's going to have the ball in his hands, somebody comes to set him a screen. Whoever sets the screen, whoever's guarding the screener, you're going to go show hard, and we're going to get the ball out of KD's hands, and we're going to make sure we just rotate and play out of that. And I thought that really disrupted a lot of his rhythm. But by that time, man, it was just KD time. And again, his timeout usage I thought was really good. I mean, I feel like Billy was like, I don't know if he'll say it, but the way he was coaching this game was almost like he had a, like, I don't know, him and Vogel had some beef or something. Like, it was just like almost like, maybe the Phoenix Suns like turned him down. It's like, I don't know. It was just like it just felt the way he was coaching his game was like there was something burning in him that he really, really, really wanted to win this ball game. And so I just could feel it, like the way, because a lot of times I'm sorry, I'm going long-winded tonight. My bad, Chris. But when I watch basketball games, I try to sit down and watch the game as a coach, put my coaching hat on. And just, what would I do in this predicament? Like, if they're doing this, what would I do to counter it if we're having trouble with it? Lineup decisions, things like that, and I just felt like I was on the same page as Billy, man. Like, I felt like I was on the same page. Like he was just doing his thing. Like, I felt like an assistant on the bench, hey, Billy, we should try this, and he would try it. I'm like, yo, what? So I don't know, man. It was just really cool. And I thought he was coaching really well tonight. And again, like, the offense is going to be whatever it is. Like, I've gotten over it. He's just a defensive guy that, will trust his players to figure it out on the offensive end.
So I have a follow-up question for you, talking about how Zach maybe doesn't fit the system, or you want him to try different things. What kind of player or player archetype do you think this team needs in order for the offense to be as creative as you'd like it to be?
So I think here's the deal, right? Is I wish I could like sit down. I wish I was boys with Zach LaVine and I could just sit down with him and be like, bro, what's going on, man? Like, what's the problem with the offense? Like, do you really want the ball in your hands that much? Or like, what's going on? Like, I need to understand, because there is no reason the skill set that Zach LaVine has, there's no reason it shouldn't work. Like, unless it's a thing where he's like, no, I want the ball in my hands and let me cook. And, and again, we don't know him personally, obviously. And so we were just kind of guessing. But Zach, to me, would be a good player to have in terms of the offense, because of how dynamic he is. You're talking about somebody that can shoot 40% from three on catch and shoot or off the dribble. You can run backdoor, where there's an action called blind pig, where, you'll see the Kings run it, where and the Bulls have ran it. Like, I believe the Bulls ran it like the first year Vooch was here. They ran it, I believe, one time against the Celtics, if I remember right. And it's been sprinkled in now and then. But like, the blind pig action is when like you're big, or usually it's a big where he pops up to the elbow, and whoever's the guard or whoever throws him the ball, right? It can be done differently, right? It can be whoever throws him the ball pretends like they're going to kind of go set a screen on the same side wing, and instead of setting the screen, they slip it and go right back door, and the big just drops a pocket pass, kind of like right there. Or it's where the big pops up again to the elbow, and whoever's on the wing pretends like they're popping out towards the half court line, and then he just beeline it back door, and then they pop it, throw a backdoor, pocket pass almost to the cutter. Like, there's different things like with his athleticism that you could do. You just wish, like, even Jimmy Butler, right? Like, you even then, Pau Gasol would throw lobs to Jimmy. We always saw those last second lobs to Jimmy. Like, why are we not seeing more lobs to Zach? Like, I don't understand. Why are we not using this athleticism? And maybe it is the knee. Maybe it is the medicals. Maybe he is just not fully where 100% Zach LaVine would be. Who knows? But like, he's that player. Like, to me, Zach offensively, the way he plays, could play the game. Like, I would love that. I mean, but anyway, so yeah, I would, to me, like, I think Zach could be that player. But also like someone that has good feel, that can go alongside Coby, that can play on or off the ball, but also has a good enough feel to understand when to cut back door, when this, setting, running the lanes hard, being able to, understanding spacing, understanding when the ball is being dribbled towards you. It's not, unless it's like a dribble handoff action, like when the ball's being dribbled towards you, push away, right? If the ball's being dribbled away from you, pull up, right? Like, it's just understanding the spacing, the geometry of the floor in order to continue to keep an offense really humming. Like that, those little things matter. Okay, he goes away 2 steps, I'm popping up 2 steps. Like we're moving almost like on a string, right? And people a lot of times they say that on defense, but offensively you got to be on a string too. Like, every movement has like a corresponding, movement, if you will, like on the opposite side of the floor, where you just
It's a
want to keep.
dance, man.
Exactly. So I don't know, man. What about you though? Like, do you have someone that you would also love, that you have pinpointed, like, man, if we could just get that guy?
It's tough because I think the Bulls have been without a high quality lead creator for a long, long time. Someone who can really just get everyone set up in the offense. And I think that's why we've kind of relied on Vooch so much, is because Vooch is like the closest approximation, or has been the closest approximation, of a playmaker, someone who can read the game at that high of a level. Whereas, I mean, DeMar and Zach, like DeMar is a really great decision maker, but he's not like, I don't know, he's just not the same type of lead creator. Like, he's really good at manipulating the defenses so he can get a shot,
Yeah.
or he can draw a foul, but he doesn't have like the speed and I don't know what it is, but he just doesn't have the manipulation other than kind of for him to draw fouls. I just wish we had someone that, I know, like a Luka or a Tyrese Halliburton. Obviously, those are like really, really great examples, but even like a Tyus Jones, or someone who can kind of just run an offense that way. And I think Coby has gotten a lot closer to that this year than he ever has before. But that's why I think Lonzo was so important to this team, because Lonzo, even though he was not a downhill force and he was not a creator in the traditional sense, he read the game offensively at such a high level and had such passing acumen that he could create spaces just with his mind, just with his eyes. I think that's what makes Luka so special, is he has such a high level of processing on the offensive end, and he's also big, and he's also smart with his body. Like, he's just got that package. And same with Jokic, right?
Yeah.
These guys are so special because they can create in the traditional sense and they can create in the processing sense. And that's just such a rare combination to have. And so I think the Bulls have really lacked a high level processor as a lead creator. And, I hope Lonzo comes back at some point. That'd be really awesome, because I think he'd be a great fit in this offense. But I don't know. I was thinking as you were talking about Zach and Coby playing so well together. I was like, yeah, Zach and Coby played really well together. You're talking about Zach being the type of guy that an offense should work really well with. And I was just curious, because I was thinking, and this is totally just unrelated, but what if we had never done the Vooch trade and signed DeMar, and we got the current versions of Coby, Zach, well, maybe Zach from 2 years ago, let's say, or when he was really cooking, Pat, Lowry, and Wendell, right? That starting five that we had in 2019, 2020 to start the year. That would be a really, really fun squad, because with Coby's processing the way it is now, and with Wendell's passing the way it is now, it's gotten a lot better. And with Lowry, obviously, becoming a much better defender, more decisive, more consistent. It'd be a really fun offensive team to watch, and they would have a lot better defensive chops than they had at the time. Because I think Pat he wasn't very good on defense his rookie year.
Yeah.
He was just learning. But now with the improvements that all 5 of them have gotten way better on the defensive end. Wendell was always solid, but he's so fundamentally sound. It was just a fun kind of thought exercise. But even then, I would say, even if you stuck with that 5, you still don't have a creator of the level that I think you would really need to maximize an offense. So, yeah, it's a tough question that I posed to you and now you posed back to me. But I really think that until the Bulls get a creator that is at that sort of level, I don't think that they're going to ever be able to reach the type of ceiling they want as a team. And ultimately, that's why I think, as fun as it's been this season to watch the young guys grow, and watch the Vooch and DeMar and Caruso and those guys cook in their own ways, you kind of see the shelf life of this team and what really needs to happen in order for us to get to the place we want to be. But that may not be the Bulls' goal. I know Casey Johnson said last week that it's absolutely the Bulls' wish and desire and goal to win another championship. But everything that the front office has done in the last couple of years has really limited the ceiling on this group. And it kind of all leads back to Zach LaVine and the decisions that they've made around him. And so I did want to talk about Zach LaVine for a few minutes tonight. I've been working on a piece about Zach and about things that have been said about Zach this season and narratives that have kind of persisted for years. And, whether there's any truth to those types of things. And so, the article I'm writing, it goes through discussion about his defense, discussion about his injury history and availability, discussion about his contract, discussion about his ability to be a playmaker, about his ability to be, like a winning a player or a guy who can impact winning. And so, there's been a lot of things said about him, and I want to ask you of those topics, which one do you think the perception of him publicly is the furthest from the truth, right? Of you watching LaVine, because you've watched Zach for many years, right? Since he got to the Bulls. What do you think are those topics, or maybe another topic that you think is something where the narrative is so different from the reality, or the most different from the reality?
For me, excuse me, it's the perception that like he can't help you win, like he's not a winning player. I think it gets lost, like the role that he's been put in as a Bull. I think he's just been he's been basically told to do more things than he probably isn't good enough to do, like in terms of leading a team by being the number one guy, and so I think if you were to put him on any team as a 2 or 3 to legit guys, like there's no doubt that he can help you win. I just think, to me, that is just, what do they say? Missing the forest for the trees. Is that what they say?
Yeah. You're not seeing the big picture because you're caught up in the trees on this one. I agree with you, Larro. It's interesting that you say that. I wasn't sure which topic you'd pick, but I think ultimately, if you can't see a way that a guy who can score like Zach can, on the efficiency that he can, with the athleticism that he has, if you can't find a way to put him in a position where he can impact winning, I just don't think you're a very good executive or coach. Like, it's not on Zach. And I think you hit it on the head, which is the role that he's been placed in Chicago is one where his weaknesses are exposed and magnified and his strengths are minimized, because he is an amazing off-ball scorer. He's an amazing cutter. He's an amazing catch and shoot player. He's an okay defender. We'll talk about his defense in a second. But his playmaking, I think, is, to me, the major difference between guys like him and guys like Devin Booker or Donovan Mitchell is the playmaking. It's the processing speed on offense with the ball in his hands. And that's where he lacks. And so he's been tasked to do this, and he's been used to doing this and having this role for so many years now that, to me, it's obvious. It's not a selfishness thing. It's not a mentality thing. It's like he's been programmed to be this way his whole career. And now we expect him to just like integrate perfectly as a second or third option. So I get the trepidation from other teams to say, hey, can he do this year? But he absolutely has the skill set, and I think would be way more maximized. Like if he had started his career in a Klay Thompson role, now he's not the defender that Klay Thompson is, but that type of role where it's like, hey, you're gonna be a finisher, an elite finisher, and I just think you're gonna get the best type of Zach LaVine, where he's just free to take those shots, to finish at the basket, to get set up, because he's just such an incredible elite 3-level scorer. Like I think that gets lost in the sauce sometimes, that there are very, very few people who can score at the efficiency and effortlessness that Zach can. So that's really interesting that you say that it's the impact on winning. And that's the thing that's the laziest analysis to me of people. And I've listened to other podcasts. Like there was a podcast by some Sixers people, Sixers fans, right? They're just, and then there was one that Casey Johnson was on with some guy from a Knicks blog, and just the stuff that they said, I'm just like, you guys don't watch Zach LaVine at all. Like you just don't watch him. You're just listening to the stuff that's said on the internet about him. And so
Yep.
I wanted to give you a couple of things tonight, but I'll let you speak first. But I have some examples of how most of that stuff is just like absolute crap, actually. But that's wild, man.
I mean, dude, yeah, the perception of Zach is just, it's changed. And in terms of, it's changed to folks that watch highlights that are not detailed in terms of, what they pay attention to for a player, paying attention to the roles that they're asking players to play. I think a lot of times, like, it took me a while to get here, but I've gotten to a point where, like, okay, you know what? I understand. Some folks don't give a dang about roles, the atmosphere of a team. Do you score or do you not? Do you, like, and I get it. People are like that. But I think the people that understand, the smart, okay, I'm sorry, that's wrong. But the people that pay attention to those things more than not understand what's going on. And I think people are just missing the boat, man. Like Zach, yeah, maybe it's time for a change of scenery. Maybe it is.
Yeah,
but
and I agree with you, right?
Well,
yeah, I think Casey Johnson said it. He says all the time, people are so focused on Zach's weaknesses that they just completely forget all the strengths that he has. But I want to talk about some of these perceived weaknesses, because I think that there's some things here that are just not true. They're just flat out not true. And so I want to start with his contract, because a lot of people say he's so overpaid, or he's paid like a number one option. And it's just not true. So if you go through his contracts, he's the 18th highest paid player in the NBA. Sounds like a lot, right? But there's like there's a list. So the top 20, right? Zach is 18, but he makes $40 million. Sorry, 40,000. $40 million this season, which is a lot, right? It's a lot.
Yeah.
But if you look at the top of the list, guys that are making 52, 47, 46, 45, all the way down to 43. These are guys like Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, LeBron James, Giannis, Dame, Kawhi, PG, Butler, right? There's two guys that stick out Klay Thompson and Bradley Beal. Those are the only two guys that are paid like number ones and aren't number ones. And then you get to the next group of guys that starts at $41 million. Rudy Gobert, Fred VanVleet, Anthony Davis, Trae Young, Luka Doncic, Tobias Harris, Ben Simmons, right? And then you've got Pascal Siakam, Kyrie Irving, Drew Holiday, Devin Booker, Kat, Porzingis. They're all kind of in that $36 to $41 million range. So, and if you look at those contracts, most of those guys are number 2 or number 3 on a good team. The couple of guys that have the best argument to be out of that category are Devin Booker. And guess what? Devin Booker starts making $50 million next year because he qualified for a higher number. And then Anthony Davis is going to be making $60 million in 2 years because he just got that extension, 60, and 70 million over those next 3 years. So those guys get paid like number one options, and Devin Booker is not quite there. Also, Kat is going to be making the same amount of money that Devin Booker will be. So Zach at the absolute top of his contract won't make 50 million. So he's not in that tier. He's not in that tier at all. So he's paid like a number 2 guy. And he's not paid like a number 1 guy. Is he overpaid as a number 2 guy? I don't know. Like for his production this year, for sure. But if you get the 2 years of All-Star Zach LaVine that we had with this current CBA as it is now, $40 million for a max player, that for a normal max player is normal. It's not a crazy contract. It's not a super max. It's a regular max that is right in line with people of his production. The only reason that like guys like Trae Young and Luka Doncic aren't getting paid more is because they're younger guys. They're 2018 draftees, and so they didn't qualify for that higher one. But guaranteed, Luka Doncic will start making that money. So it's not that Zach is paid too much. It's those two guys are paid too little for what the CBA allows. So I just think that's one that's just flat out not true. He's not paid like a number 1 option. He's paid like a number 2 option, as he should be. The only problem is he's been relied on to be the number 1 option in Chicago, and clearly that's not the right role for him. And then I want to talk about his availability injury history because people absolutely just lie through their teeth about this one. And I don't know why, but like this one is just factual. All you have to do is look at the numbers. Just look at the numbers. So if you look at the numbers of what Zach LaVine has done, so his first season in the league, he played 77 out of 82 games. His second season, 82 out of 82 games. His third season, he'd played 47 of 52, I think it was, until he tore his ACL. So he tore his ACL that season in February of 2017. He was out for a year and some change. He played 24 games in 2018 or 2018, right? When he was traded to the Bulls, he played, but they kind of just kept him just like a little ramp up period. And then they kind of shut him down right at the end of the year. Since that time, this is 2018. This is 6 years ago. Zach has played 63 games, 76 games, 66 games, 67 games, 77 games. That's an average of 70 games out of 82 equivalent every year. So one of those seasons, they only played 65 games, and one of those seasons, they only played 72. But if you do the calculation of what that would equal in an 82-game season, he's averaging 69.7 games out of 82 for 6 straight years. That's an incredible achievement. That's 85% of available games he's played. And the biggest loss of time that he had during those 6 years is when he missed 14 games due to COVID. So his biggest loss in games played was 14 games due to COVID. It wasn't due to injury. So if you take that out, he's like at 88, 89%, over 70 games a season, if you were just take those 14 games out. So the idea that Zach is injury prone or he's unavailable is absolute BS. If you compare it to other players of his caliber or kind of more seasoned guards, right, like Bradley Beal, Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker, CJ McCollum, Jaylen Brown, even guys like DeJounte and Jamal Murray, he's played more games in that 6-year period than all of them, except Donovan Mitchell. So it's just not true. Like the fact that he's missing games this year is the anomaly.
Yeah.
He played 96% of his games before the ACL tear. He's played 85% of the games since then. So this year is the first year that he's missing significant time since 2018. So I just don't know where the narrative comes from that he's injury prone. He's only had one injury his whole career. I think it's because he had like the cleanup surgery.
Yeah.
But he only missed 5 games due to that, and that was just them resting him on back-to-backs. He didn't actually miss any time for that. He played through the injury, so clearly it wasn't bad. Clearly it wasn't as bad as it could have been. So I think it's fair to be concerned about the quality of his knee at this point, but he's only missed 5 games in 6 years for knee issues. 5 games in 6 years since the ACL surgery. So that's a pretty good record for someone who is supposedly has just like crumbling knees. That he only missed 5 games in 6 years for his bad knee. So, anyways, that's a little rant. This is just factual stuff. It's just facts. It's just adding up numbers. Anyone who tells you that Zach LaVine doesn't play or is injury prone is just misinformed or lying. That's it. This is it. There's no other way around it.
Yeah, I think you nailed that. And like even this year, I mean, a sprained ankle. I mean, like we're not talking about a meniscus. We're not talking about ACL. You know, little nagging. Every basketball player who plays pickup, you know, like you're gonna, you get sprained ankles. You know what I mean? So it's like if I was a team, concerned, unless there's like this big red flag that's not public. Like, I don't know if injuries could be something that would hold me back. I mean, I think a sprained ankle is not, like you said, like some of these things, like 5, like no, like I'm not worried about that.
He's had 2 fluke injuries this year with the right foot inflammation and this ankle sprain. It's the first time he's missed significant time. Like he missed 14 games due to COVID. He sprained his left thumb in October 2021, but he played through it, missed no games because of it. That's it. It's the first time he's missed time other than COVID since like 2018. It's crazy. So, yeah. As you said, it's like, unless there's some like really bad medical record out there that just says, he's a ticking time bomb or something, I just don't understand what the issue is there. The other thing that people really harp on Zach about is his defense.
Yeah.
So I went through the numbers on that. I went through his impact. I went through game film, and you know what? Zach LaVine was a really terrible defender his first 4 years in the league. He was really bad. Part of that was a torn ACL, right? Like he just wasn't good his first couple years on defense. And then after his ACL, he's a little shaky, but starting with the 2019 season, his defense took a really big leap. So if you look at dunks and threes, which has EPM, one of my absolute favorite stats, they have a defensive EPM for LaVine. So it matches the eye test, right? His first year in the league, he was 4th percentile, one of the worst defenders in the league. His second season, he was 11th percentile. Third season, 20th percentile. So really bad. Towards ACL, in the 24 games he played in the 2018 season, he was 15th percentile. So that, to me, if you're below 20th percentile, that is as Zach Lowe called him, an extremely damaging defender, right? Or an enormously damaging defender. That's true. He was. And I think as many young players are, especially ones that are score first players, he did not understand NBA defensive concepts. It was foreign to him, and he was not very good at it. And then something happened in the 2019 season. He jumped up to 35, the 35th percentile. So now it's bad. It's below average, but it's not enormously damaging, right? And since that time, he's gone up to 44th percentile in 2020, 48th percentile in 2021. He's actually a little bit higher than that 2022 until the second half of the season when he was played with that kind of knee soreness, but he's still at 41st percentile. The last 2 seasons, he's at 68th percentile. That's a plus 0.2, and 69th percentile, same thing. So his last 2 seasons, he's actually been above average as an overall defender in impact. Now it's just one stat, right? There's other stats that say that he's not quite as good or he's a little bit better, but all the stats basically agree that he has improved almost every year consistently, and has not been a terrible defender since at least 2019. So what Zach is good at and bad at on defense, obviously I think they're pretty clear. He's a pretty good on-ball defender. He's not a very good off-ball defender. And that's where he's really gotten killed, is the off-ball stuff. And it's because of a lack of knowledge of the schemes early on. But it's also, I think what really kills him is the same thing that kills him on offense, which is the processing, right? His cognitive athleticism, he is not a natural athlete in that, right? Now, if you're talking about hard and soft athleticism, the man is an absolute savant, right? He is an absolute elite athlete in hard and soft athleticism. If you're talking about strength, agility, change of motion, speed, direction, leaping, like he's got it all in spades, right? It's the processing speed, the spatial recognition, that kind of stuff that he's always lacked, and he's gotten better every year. He's way better at playmaking than he was when he started. But that's the thing that holds him back on defense, and it shows up in a couple ways. I think you really see it a lot in his screen navigation, because if you watch him when he gets screened, he recovers really quickly because he's such an agile guy. But I think sometimes it's the anticipation of getting screened or his preparation as the screen is coming that's lacking. He's still he doesn't process it super well. And so you kind of see that juxtaposition between what he's able to do in recovery because of his hard and soft athleticism, and what he's not able to do as well in his processing speed and his preparation and anticipation of that screen. And so with off-ball stuff, he gets caught ball watching. There's plenty of clips out there. You can go, follow Stefano. You can basically type LaVine defense on his page and get just hundreds and hundreds of clips of him doing good and bad. But I don't know about you, Larro, but I think to me, Zach has been kind of average-ish defensively the last couple of years. And he hasn't been really, really bad basically since he got to Chicago. He's been he's been a decent on-ball defender, a good on-ball defender, and he's been spacey off-ball and pretty bad, but he's gotten better every year at that. I don't know if that matches your eye test, but to me, that's been kind of what I've seen with Zach. And I think his defense is actually, when you compare it to his peers, is pretty run-of-the-mill for a shooting guard. It's not notable at all. He's not a way worse defender than those guys. He's not a way better defender. He's just kind of in there with all those guys.
Yeah. And again, I think you nailed it. I mean, a lot of times when you talk, you nail it a lot. So, but what I was going to say was even if you think about against the Hornets recently, but when he was healthy, when Terry Rozier tried to attack him at the end of the game, on ball, you're gonna, when he's locked in, it's not gonna be easy. He's gonna make you work. He's gonna slide his feet, and he has enough athleticism to contest jumpers. He's a good on ball defender, and like you said, off ball, he's spacey. Sometimes he can, a lot of times he can ball watch, and sometimes get caught sleeping. Other times, he'll surprise you. He'll get in passing lanes. He'll rotate over when he's supposed to be there. So it's like you said, man, you think about all the shooting guards in the league, he's not the worst. And I don't think he's close to the bottom. I think he's, like you said, running the mill. He's, he can go, for instance, I think if he went to the Lakers, he'd be just fine, obviously, because he has AD to help him and everything like that. But any team you want to talk about, I think he'd be able to go in and fit right in and understand what he needs to do on the defensive side of the ball. And I think he'd be okay. Like you said, I don't think he's a Trae Young, or he's not somebody like that where he can hurt you and hurt you and hurt you to the point where he's okay, can we play this guy?
That's the thing is, he played an ungodly amount of minutes when he played 77 games last year.
Yeah.
He played third most minutes in the entire league. and right behind him were Vucevic and DeMar DeRozan. Those guys played a crap ton of minutes together, a crap ton. They were like the most played trio in the entire league last year. And the Bulls were 5th in defense, 5th with all three of those dudes. And so it's like if Zach was truly a bad defender, you'd see it show up. Like you'd be able to see now, like obviously if you say, oh, what's Zach's defensive on-off numbers? Sure.
Yeah.
The team is still better with him off the floor defensively, but he's never going to kill you on that end. Like it's never going to be an issue. No team that trades for him is ever going to be like, well, you can't play Zach LaVine because he gets targeted. Like you said on ball, you can't target Zach LaVine like you can target Coby White. Like Coby White gets targeted on ball and off ball. But Zach, it's like you really can't do that. Like you don't see it very often. It's really, really rare that Zach gets targeted on defense. But people say that all the time, like, oh, they're just going to target him on defense. No, they don't. They don't do that. The only way you can target Zach is by putting him like as the low man, or something, and try to distract him. Like that's the way that you can do it. But he doesn't get targeted on ball. It just doesn't happen. So it's just really weird that I just don't. These narratives persist though. Like anybody you listen to on a national podcast or even on these team podcasts that talk about Zach LaVine are just talking out of their butts. Like they just have no idea what they're talking about. None. They just repeat this stuff. And it's really frustrating me because like you can think what you want about whether or not Zach LaVine would be able to help your team or whether or not it'd be worth trading for him. Like I get that. Like I get the understanding of, all right, well, he makes 40 million and that's tough to get money, right? Enough to trade for that kind of a piece. I get that. That totally makes sense to me. But these narratives that have come out have hurt his trade value and just hurt the understanding of who he is as a basketball player. And most of them aren't true. They're just not true. The contract, the defense, the injury history, none of it's true. Or it's like way overstated at worst, or at best. So yeah, I'm excited. I can hopefully be able to finish that this week and get it put out there for you guys to read. But it's something that really bothers me. Like I'm a lawyer, so fairness has always been, or trying to be objective or trying to give like a fair reading of things has always mattered a lot to me. And so it's not a defense of Zach LaVine. Like it's not, me, the type of players I like, Larro, are people that play versatile defense and have high processing. Mm-hmm. And Zach is neither of those things, but I've come to appreciate Zach as a player because he does so many things that I don't typically appreciate, but he just does them at such a high level that it's hard not to. And I just think he's gotten such a bad rap and been in one of the worst situations in the league in a role that does not suit him whatsoever. And he's just gotten killed for it. Just gotten killed. He's taken the brunt of the blame when honestly, he's improved in so many ways that I didn't know were possible on defense and his playmaking and stuff. And he earned that contract, man. He earned it. He should have gotten paid that contract. And it sucks that he's viewed around the league in such a negative way at this point, partly because of it. So it's a shame. The Bulls really have some really tough decisions to make here coming up at the deadline. I'm not sure what they're going to do. I think it would be in the Bulls' best interest if Zach LaVine is truly barren and non-existent, or they're going to have to like attach assets to him to move him. Just don't move him. Like, just don't. I know that there's other ramifications with that, but he's not a locker room cancer. You can absolutely play with him on the roster, and it's not going to affect your ability to win. It's just not going to be a big deal. And if it means you got to move guys like DeMar and Caruso and Vooch, like that's what you should be doing anyways. So like, why not? But we'll see what they do. But has the play with or without Zach LaVine changed your opinion of what the Bulls should do or what you want the Bulls to do going forward?
I think the more I watch the team, the more I think, now this some people may feel different, but I think that if you were to substitute Zach for DeMar, I do feel like the team was still, I think they could still play this way. The way they're humming the ball around, things like that. I think what if I'm just trying to put myself in a player's mindset, right? Like I think what kind of throws Zach off is I think it'd be different if it was him, Kobe, Vooch, right? But now right now you have him, Kobe, DeMar, and Vooch. So now like he's trying to figure out like what role do they need me to play? Like, do they need me to shoot more threes? Should I be looking to be that connective tissue? Should I, like I think he's struggling with that because I think you bring up a great point of since he's been a Bull, like his identity has been, I'm the guy, I have to score 25 a night. I have to score that. Some nights way more. Like that's who I have to be. So you go from that to being, hearing, the team saying, "Hey, look, that ball's got to pop. That ball's got to move." And you bring up the fact again. You brought up another great point about how Zach struggles in the processing part of things. And now, okay, now you bring the processing thing back into play with him, where it's like, okay, do I swing it or do I shoot it? Do I attack this closeout, or do I swing it? Like now you're making him think a little bit more than he's, in the positions that he's used to like, yo, give me the ball. I'm going to come off this screen and I'm going to read the game this way. Now you're saying, okay, Zach, ball swung, you're in the corner, shake up to the wing, 45 cut, or catch it, swing, roll into a dribble handoff, or go into he's like, now you're adding more steps. And I think just like any of these other players, like I think it's going to take time for him to figure it out. And if anything, to go rolling back to your original question, if anything, like trading like a DeMar may hurt the younger guys, but I think that Patrick Williams is at a point where he understands what he needs to, like he's taken those lessons. He understands what he's got to do. And I think for sure Coby White has taken the next step. So I think now is a time to move off of DeMar if you can. Especially like you said, if you got to add assets to Zach and you just say F it, let's just keep him. Let's move a DeMar, right? Move a Vooch and hopefully get back a young center, please. Or it's just it's I think I'd be okay with moving either DeMar or Zach, but I do think one of them has to go. I think you have to make that decision of, what, I love where we're going, but we're not competing for a championship. We're probably not competing for a second round, and there's probably a chance they don't make it out of the play-in. So you have to weigh your options and be smart about things. Like, okay, you know what? Let's move a DeMar for some pieces or whatever we can get. Let's move, if we can move a Vooch to well, I mean, Memphis was a spot, but they're dead. So it's like they're, like I think you brought up Dallas as a spot for them as well at some point. Like maybe it's time to explore that because I believe Kobe is taking that next step. And I think you open up more room for Pat and you open up more room for the younger guys to come on. And who knows, maybe you get into a lottery pick, maybe, who knows? But I do think it's time to move on from one of those guys, if not.
Yeah, we clearly know that all three don't work together. Two of them seem to work decently, but and that's a lot of people think it's like, well, you just don't like DeMar, you don't appreciate DeMar or Zach or Vooch. It's not that. I appreciate all these players. I've been staunch defenders of all these players at different points here, especially like when DeMar first got signed. I wrote an article. It's like my first article ever, basically saying how much sense the signing made in the context that we were given, and I think it proved to be pretty accurate. And I hated the Vooch trade. I still hate the Vooch trade. You know it. You know how much it made me upset. But like Vooch is a really, really good player, and I think he gets a lot of hate, but undeserved hate. But the thing is, there was a poll the other day by someone I follow on Twitter named Mavs Draft, and I'm pretty sure you follow him too, Larro.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a poll that was like, what are the most important attributes of these different players. And so one of them was most important skill of like which of the following skills is the most important for a big, and it was shooting, rim protection, perimeter defense, low turnovers. 84% said rim protection. Guess what Vooch doesn't do? And then it says, what's the most important skill or trait for a wing? Shooting, ball handling, playmaking, versatile defense, or athleticism? Versatile defense and shooting were the top two. Guess what DeMar DeRozan doesn't do? Both of those things. And then most important skill or trait for a guard: decision-making, shooting, defense, size, and length. Number one thing was decision-making. Guess what Zach LaVine doesn't do? Like, to me, it was like, that is such a great summation of the Bulls' problems. We have a big who doesn't protect the rim. We have a wing who doesn't guard. And we have a lead guard that struggles with decision-making in real time. And that, I think, is going to limit your ceiling as a team. You have to have a lead creator with high-level decision-making. You have to have versatile defense and shooting. You have to have a big who can protect the rim. Those are the three basics to having a successful ball club, period. And we don't have any of those. None. So it's like Coby is the best chance of a high-level decision-making guard we have. But I still don't think that guy's on the roster right now unless Lonzo comes back. I don't think we have one of those on the roster. As you just said, we don't have a big that can protect the rim. We don't even have a theoretical rim protector. We have no prospects at the center position, none. And then, with wings, versatile defense, and shooting, Pat is like the best chance we got.
Yeah,
like Julian Phillips, maybe. And that's it. So the Bulls have a lot of work to do in those three areas. And to me, it's if your three highest paid players can't do their main job, that presents a problem for you in team building. So as much as I enjoyed the 2020, 2021 Bulls when Lonzo and Caruso and them were all healthy, that's a huge, huge problem. And it's been that way since that season. I said, the real problem that the Bulls have is their three stars are not good enough in the traits that they need to have to be a successful basketball team. And even though Lonzo and Caruso are amazing, basically perfect role players, that's all they are. They're not superstars, and you need two-way superstars to be able to be successful. So we'll see what they do at the deadline here. We're coming up in just a couple weeks. 1, 2, 2.5 weeks, almost 3 weeks from now. So we'll see what happens there. But big changes are needed.
Yeah.
This team is still fun to watch on a nightly basis for the most part. But we know where this is going, and it's not going anywhere positive at the end of the day. So any final thoughts on the direction of the team before we wrap it up here?
I mean, like you said, no matter how well or how fun the team looks at times, at the end of the day, the end goal should be building a team that can win a championship. And if you're being honest, this team is not built for that. They're not built, to, get to that point. So you got to do what you have to do in order to either free up space to do other things or bring on, younger prospects that you can put some hope into and get some, development, put them around Pete, Mr. Patton, and see what happens. But yeah, something needs to change. You can't stick it out with this. What are you gonna, you can't. To me, you just can't stick it out. With this situation right now. You got a good thing going on with Coby White in terms of him continuing to ascend as a player. Pat still needs to find consistency. But outside of that, I really don't, know what else you can be hopeful for. So I think it's time to find something else that you can be hopeful for, to put some more eggs in the basket, if you will, to hopefully find something else, that can give you something else. So
I mean, the Bulls' best hope internally right now is that they can sign DeMar DeRozan to a reasonable extension or a new contract. And that should tell you all you need to know about this front office. That's their main priority.
My thing, this could go on forever, but my last thing is the whole thing about Acme was supposed to be like his player relationships and his player, he's got all these connections and because he worked with Nike and it worked with DeMar. But it's like, what, I thought there would be more, I thought he'd be able to help get more, here. So I don't know what Acme particularly does, but I'm just at a loss, man, of what they are going to do. There's no tea leaves really. I know when the Vooch thing happened, we had no idea that they were even interested in Vooch. So hopefully that's something else that happens where a deal happens out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And so
we'll see. I think the Bulls are in a really good spot to rebuild. Like they've got a great shooting coach. They've got a great actual basketball head coach is really good. They've got player development staff in place. It's a great city. They got the Advocate Centers of state-of-the-art center. Like they've got a lot of things in place where if they wanted to do this right, they could, and they've got players that they can get assets for, and they've got big contracts they can move. They can take on bad contracts. Like they're in a great position to do the right thing. But do you trust the people at the helm to do the right thing? At this point, I don't know. So we'll see. Got 2.5 weeks to figure it out. Well, I'll be back next week to talk about the Bulls' record, any news, trade chatter, any other kind of trades and major moves that happen around the NBA. Thanks for sticking with us to the end. It was fun to talk about Coby and Billy Donovan, Zach LaVine. Just kind of do a little bit of deep dive on those guys. And look out for us next week. Appreciate you guys, and we'll see you. Peace.